So, Happy New Year and welcome to the first video of the year. Now, normally I would be doing a haul this week, but most of the stuff I've ordered hasn't actually arrived yet, so that's getting postponed into probably next week, possibly the week after, depending when the stuff comes. So, for now we've got this video, which was scheduled for earlier, but now it's today. So as you can probably tell by the title today, I am going to be going over my top 10 manga of 2021. Now these don't necessarily have to be manga that came out in 2021. These just have to be manga that I started reading in 2021. So it could have come out in like 1984 or whatever. It doesn't matter as long as I started reading it in 2021. If I started reading it in 2020, even if I read the majority in 2021, that doesn't count. I have to have read the first volume last year in order for them to count for this list. So some of them were new for last year, some of them are older series, but they're all series that I started reading last year, and these are the ones I like the best. So let's get on with the video. Okay, let me just... I have the camera standing on a bunch of DVDs, so I'm going to have to move those first. And then these. Okay. And at number 10 on the list, I have Dick Fight Island. This was the 10th favourite manga that I read last year. I had to put it on here. I loved it. I know I've only read the first volume, but there is only 2. So yeah, I put stickers on so I don't forget the numbers again. Yeah, Dick Fight Island is a yaoi manga about these group of guys who every few years they have a fight to see who becomes the new king of their island by fighting each other with their dicks. And whoever comes first loses. So they have to fight each other erotically and try to make their opponent come. And it was so funny. And also quite wholesome at the same time. It was a very fun read, and I just had to have it on my top 10 of last year. Anyway, at number 9, I chose a manga that I wasn't too sure of at first, but as of volume 2, I was hooked on this series. And that is Love of Kill, as my 9th favourite of 2021. I've read, I think, five volumes of this. So I'm caught up to date. I don't have to finish the series for it to qualify for this list. I could have only read a couple of volumes, but if I liked it enough, it'll be on here. I loved Love of Kill as volume 2. Well, as I said, I read volume 1, I wasn't too sure about it, but then volume 2 came along and I was like, I'm hooked on this now. And so, here it is at number 9. This is an action josei series about 2 hitmen. We have Chateau, and then we have... Ryan Hasong. I think you pronounce his name like that. I'm not sure. So yeah, I really liked it. It's basically kind of like an action movie, just these 2 hitmen. He likes her, she doesn't know why. Has that got a rip on it? Oh well. He likes her. She's unsure why. He's trying to keeps chasing after her and taking her jobs away from her and stuff, and it's just, I really enjoyed the series. It was a bunch of fun. Now my 8th favourite series that I started last year is A School Frozen Time. Now this is a completed series. I have yet to read the final volume. It is a part of the haul that has yet to arrive. This posted to this time of the year, it's just starting to get back to normal, so hopefully things will start coming in soon. But anyway, A School Frozen Town, it's such a good psychological mystery series about a bunch of students who could turn up at school one day, nobody's there. The entire school's empty apart from them, and they realise that time has stopped, and that's when they realise that time has stopped at the exact moment that one of their classmates, that none of them can remember who it was, jumped off the roof of the school. And now they're realising that maybe this victim is keeping them there. And it's like the mystery of what's going on, why they're there, how to get out of this situation, and then people keep disappearing, and it's so good. I love this series so much. I like this sort of psychological mystery, and this one was good. It might have been higher on the list if I'd finished the series, but I love this so much. It's so suspenseful and everything. It's great. Highly recommend it if you're into like sort of mystery, thriller, suspenseful, psychological stuff. And it's super short too. At number 7 is another series that as of now, all the series I've talked about have come out this year. As of now, all the series I talked about came out last year. This next one is the same. And this next one is The King's Beast. The next couple of ones I'm talking about did not start publishing last year. I don't think, anyway. One of them I'm not sure about, but I think it was the year before. Anyway, The King's Beast is at number 7. This is Ray Toma. I love Dawn of the Arcana. It was very good, and this is in the same universe, it's just in a different place. This is based off of China, whereas I think Dawn of the Arcana was Japan, a bit of the Middle East in there as well, I think, with one of the places they go. Anyway, The King's Beast is so good so far. I've read 3 volumes. Again, I haven't read volume 4. It's on its way. But again, this has all the things I loved about Dawn of the Arcana in it. Like, it's just so good. If you like Dawn of the Arcana, definitely give this one a read. It's definitely on the same level. It might rise above it as the series goes on, I'm not sure, but I loved it so far. It's a very good fantasy shoujo that just reminds me of the awesomeness that I had when I read Dawn of the Arcana. And so I had to put this in my top 10. Okay, this next one is number 6. I think this one started coming out in 2020. I'm not 100% sure though. That's Laughing Under the Clouds. Now, Laughing Under the Clouds is a series that I knew about the anime for quite a lot of years. It was always on my list, and then since it was on Funimation now, I to have an account, so I thought, why not watch it? So I did, and I absolutely loved it, and it inspired me to pick up the manga, and here's the manga. And the manga's just as good, if not better, because there is little moments. I rewatched the anime, and after reading this and after rewatching the anime, I could see the little moments that were missed out that just add to the story, and this is so good. I'm pretty sure Volume 5's just come out. But I know the entire story as I've watched it. So, Laughing Under the Clouds is a historical action shoujo bit of fantasy series about these 3 brothers called the Kuma brothers who own this shrine, and their job is to ferry prisoners from the mainland where they're committing crimes to this huge prison in the middle of this lake called Gokomonjo. So they ferry them across the lake to take them to this inescapable prison, because this takes place as the westernization of Japan was beginning and samurais were outlawed and they're all fighting back, being rebelling against the new rules. It takes place 1878, the 11th year of the Meiji year. That's when it takes place. Yeah, I really love the story of this one. I really love the characters and the artwork too. This is the same artist who did Mars Red, which I didn't know at the time, but I really like this Karakara Komori. I really like their artwork. I really enjoyed the series. If you're looking for a shoujo series that's not a typical shoujo, this could easily be mistaken for a shonen. This is an excellent one to try. It's like got that supernatural fantasy elements with a bit of historical, and it has good characters, and it's just very enjoyable. I love this so much, and I put it at my number 6. But my number 5 is a series that is quite older. I just started reading this last year. I've only read 2 volumes, but I already know by the 2 volumes I've read that I'm going to continue loving it. I've heard it goes downhill in the second half, but for now, after the 2 volumes, it's definitely something I'm really loving, and that is Death Note. We have it at number 5. Death Note isn't obviously an older series. Everyone knows what Death Note is. I've read this first volume. This is the first 2 volumes this year, and I absolutely loved it. It's like a detective sort of thriller series where you have Light with the Death Note trying to kill criminals who he thinks the world could do without, and then we have L who's trying to catch Light with all his detective stuff, and it's like a battle of 2 geniuses trying to find each other, and it's just so good. I understand why this is one of the top manga of all time. I'm very loving it. I was going to get more, but I forgot, because I'm going to watch it soon too. Yeah, and although I've only read 2 volumes, I already know I'm going to really enjoy this one, and that's why it's at number 5. I don't really need to explain Death Note that much. Anyway, at number 4, I have a series I have actually finished, and that's ID Invaded Breakbroken. I just read volume 3 before the new year, so I did finish it last year as well. ID Invaded is a spin-off sequel series to the anime, which I really enjoyed. It was probably one of my favourite animes that I watched last year. It's a sci-fi mystery detective series about these organisation called the Cora organisation, I think, and they have this idwell which you put particles of people's intent to kill inside of, and it makes this world where they send in these brilliant detectives to try and solve the mystery and find out who the killer is. And the story of this trilogy was just like a long-running mystery. It adds to the anime, and I enjoyed it so much, the same as I enjoyed the anime. There's some awesome car crashes in here, there's some good action. Again, I like the characters from this one. The final chapter of this is called To Be Continued, and it's pretty obvious from finishing the series that it probably is going to get another sequel series, or maybe they'll get a new anime. But the final volume does leave stuff unanswered. There's some stuff you still want to know by the end of volume 3, because obviously it's not going to be the end. But I'm not going to take away from it from that, because I do believe this will get a sequel. Especially with the name of the final chapter. But yeah, I love this so much. Check it out if you like sci-fi. Next up, at number 3, I have A Sign of Affection. I love this series so much. It was probably my absolute favourite shoujo that I read last year. I've read 3 volumes. Volume 4 sadly got pushed back in the UK. We're not getting it into the 10th, I believe. This is my absolute favourite shoujo that I read. This is by Sumo Ishita, and I just realised I've totally been forgetting to say the authors of all of these series. So we have, I'm just gonna this is here are the all of the authors. I need to get better at mentioning who writes stuff. I keep forgetting. Anyway, A Sign of Affection is my favourite shoujo that I read last year. It's a super cute, super wholesome story about this deaf girl who bumped into this guy on the train who knows many different languages, and she gets spoken to by a foreigner in a language she doesn't understand, and obviously she also can't hear him, so this guy helps her out because he knew the language, and the two of them to start hanging out and to start to grow closer because of that. And it's just a very nice shoujo, slice of life shoujo. But I'd say probably the best one I read last year. And possibly, is this the only shoujo on this list? No, Laughing Under the Clouds and the King's Beast, so I thought on this list too. The Sign of Perfection. If you haven't read this, I recommend you check it out. And at number 2 on this list is something that I have not shut up about since I read it. And that is The Cat Proposed by Gento Hayana. This is my favourite BL that I read last year. It's just a one-shot volume. It's by Tokyo Pop. And I've loved it since the moment I read it. And I still go on about it to this day. It's about this guy who's just very tired from work. He's not having the best life, so he's coming home from work one day. He's standing on the train station for just a split second. He contemplates what it would be like if he just stepped off onto the tracks. But then he's like, nah. And he goes to this, like, I think it was a cafe, where they tell these traditional Japanese stories, and he listens to the story that this man's telling, and he's like totally intrigued by the story, and it makes him feel relaxed. And then it turns out that this guy's actually a Bakaneko, which is like a cat demon, and so he can transform between a cat and a person, and he's like asked this guy if he will be his bride. I can't remember exactly why he asked him to be his bride, but this was such a cute, wholesome BL, and I absolutely loved it so much. And I will forever love this one. It's in my top 10 BL of all time now, since I read it. I loved it so much. If you're into BL, if you want a nice, cute, wholesome one, check this out. The Cat Proposed. And my number 1 read of last year, my number 1 read of 2021, my favourite manga that I read last year, started reading last year, finished reading last year, is After School Nightmare. This is another older one. This is by Satona Mizuhiro. She wrote the Cornet Masterpiece Cheese as well, which I also read last year. But this was absolutely fantastic. It's kind of like, it's got a school life vibe to it, but it's also got the mystery to it, the supernatural bit to it, and I absolutely thought this was fantastic. I completed this entire series last year. I did kind of predict the ending a bit, but not exactly. The ending was something similar to what I was expecting it to be, but not 100% the same as what I was expecting it to be. But that, just because I kind of 90% predicted the ending, doesn't mean this series is bad, doesn't mean I didn't still enjoy the ending. It was a little bit confusing, but I did eventually get it, what was happening. Yeah, After School Nightmare is a shoujo. Oh wait, this is a shoujo, isn't it? This is my favourite shoujo of the year. And A Sign of Affection. Anyway, this series is about, we have this school, and then we have this guy here who is called Mashiro, and Mashiro is intersex, and he's like trying to come to terms with that and figuring out kind of what gender he really wants to be. And at the beginning he's a boy, and he meets these two, and then there's like this after school class in the like this nurse's office where they sent into like nightmares, and whilst they're in there, they're told to find this key, and they need this key in order to graduate, and once they graduate, something happens, and they like disappear from the school, and no one remembers them, but they don't know what actually happens after graduation, but they have to keep going into this like nightmare realm, where they appear as like, who, I think it was who they see themselves as, or something like that. But yeah, when he goes into this nightmare realm, he appears like as a full female. And yeah, this was just very good. The backstories to the characters as well. I like the characters. This was just a very good story that I very enjoyed. My favourite read of last year was After School Nightmare. Now before I actually end the video, I am going to go over a few series that didn't quite make the list. So here are my honourable mentions. First up I have My Love Mix-Up, which is a BL, which I didn't realise was actually a BL. But I absolutely loved this, and it probably would have been in the top 10 if I had read more than one volume of it, but yeah, this is super nice. Next up, I had Museum of Terror. This is like the best Junji Ito I've read in a long time. It's a super old one. This is like these stories originally released in I think the 80s. But yeah, it's Junji Ito short stories, some of the best I've read in a while. Then we have Glass Syndrome, and this is my second favourite Tokyo BL of the year. Another one I enjoyed. Then we have Waiting for Spring. I completed this entire series last year, mostly digital. I still try to pick the rest up physically. It was out of stock for a while, but I think it's back in stock again now. So yeah, that's Waiting for Spring. Then we have Takami Bachi, which is a shonen that I started last year, which I read 5 volumes of, but I'm super enjoying it so much. If I'd read more, it might have been in the top 10 as well. But I love the art to this one, and the covers just have to have a mention because the covers for this are just super nice. I love this blue colour, like dark blue purpley colours, and my favourites like this colour blue here. That's an awesome colour blue, and these covers are just amazing. And the artwork's good too. My last honourable mention is Mermaid Saga by Rumiko Takahashi, a short episodic horror series about mermaids, and really enjoyed this one too. And that is it for my honourable mentions, and that is it for my top 10. If you want a recap of my 10 favourite reads of the year, there you go. And what did you enjoy reading last year? Did you like any of these as well, or did any of them make your top 10? Tell me down below in the comments. And that's goodbye for now, until I can finally get round to a haul. So bye. Bye.